When it comes to advertising, there are very few names who hold as much power as Sir Martin Sorrell. He has built WPP from a small wire basket manufacturer to the global marketing and advertising services empire today. Today, he is the founder and executive chairman of S4 Capital, and he continues to redefine the industry with digital first and data-driven approach. Welcome, sir.
Or try to.
It's an honor to be in a conversation with you.
Yeah. Good to be with you too.
Thank you. My first question to you is, you've been in the industry long enough and you've seen transformational journeys, be it the internet, the AI, the time being crazed that
globalization. Yeah.
Exactly happens, how it happens, How would you define the trend of AI and in terms of scale and urgency?
Well, it's probably as big as it gets and as fundamental as it gets. I'm not sure that everybody gets it. Certainly clients are hesitant about it. We can get into that a little bit more, and it's a little bit puzzling as to why they're so hesitant about it. But I think the macroeconomic pressures, tariffs on top of them, we can get into that as well, are going to put clients in the position where they have to do something about technological change in their organizations to improve efficiency. But this, ranks up with all of them. I mean, basically change is driven by two forces, geographical and technological.
True.
And you refer to wire and plastic products, or WPP. And when we started that in the mid 1980s through to when I left in 2018, the fundamental driving force is globalization. Ted Levitt, the famous Harvard Business School marketing professor, who said consumers are going to consume everything the same way everywhere, in 1983 in the Harvard Business Review. Over-egged it, the point to make the pudding, but the point was well made. That then morphed into the web in the late 1990s and smartphones and now AI. So you've got, in my life, Saatchi's was driven by globalization.
Right.
WPP was initially driven by globalization and then more by tech, and then S4 more by tech than globalization. I mean, both forces are active, but the emphasis has changed over the 50 or so years that I've been involved in it.
Amazing. Whenever we mention about AI, blockchain, any sort of the new tech trend that's going on, we always talk about personalization.
Sure.
It's a term that goes hand in hand with the tech. What do you think is the next potential that has been not yet unlocked by marketers and that does not cross the privacy line, if I may add?
Cross the
privacy line.
Well, in theory, nothing crosses the privacy line as long as consumers know what they're signing up for.
Right.
I would ask you, when was the last time you said you weren't going to accept? When you get asked the question, I accept these conditions or not, when was the last time you called your lawyer to look into what you were signing up? And the answer is you don't do it.
Yeah.
You either say no, or not accept all cookies or whatever it is, or you either say, I accept.
Yeah.
And most of us do that. Now the problem is you don't often know what you're signing up for. Even I, am meant to be somebody who understands the industry, at least according to you, don't often know quite what I'm letting myself in for. So I think we have a responsibility to do that. But putting it to one side, I think the next thing that's coming down the pike is what, the effectiveness of websites,
right.
And what's going to happen when you have an agent talking to an agent. So, I want a pair of shoes, sneakers, whatever it is, and in a few years' time, I have a word with my agent, who has a word with the manufacturer's agent, and then there's a dispatch agent that gets a dispatcher to dispatch the shoes to me. So what is the role of search? What is the role of website advertising? What is the role of websites? All these things are going to be thrown up into the air because there is no clear advertising model for that age as yet. I mean, it will develop. So I think that's the next thing. When I was in Cannes this year, the person I speak to talk to, who's very senior in one of the big platforms, doesn't speak much publicly, but really always has wise things to say. That was the thing that was top of his mind. and I think it's right. So, I think our clients have to get as much information out about their products and services as they possibly can.
Right.
Because the more information you disseminate, the better it is. For example, on earnings statements, right? You now know the more time you put in the word profit rather than loss, or I'm optimistic rather than pessimistic, the more the algorithms will pick up, optimism and positivity rather than negatives. So getting information out to consumers at scale on the web is really going to be very, very important. And in a way, more is better than less.
Of course.
So disseminate, because you have all these machines trawling the internet for information and understanding, and that's what forms the views on these LLMs.
Yeah, true. But I also feel when putting the information out gets so easy and becomes a need of the hour, it also clutters the space, right? What do you think about that?
Well, I think that's true, and that's that James Quincy, I remember on a call, CEO of Coca-Cola said, if everybody's doing personalized advertising, how do I differentiate my personalized from other? And that's when this probably becomes even more important.
Right.
So, it's like the attitude of our industry to data and technology is pretty much the same, that, it's bad, because we all like the idea that, we go to bed about 3 o'clock in the morning, we have a couple of hours sleep, we shower, we shave, we get up, I put on a crisp white shirt and a suit, go to the presentation at 9 o'clock, do a 5-minute presentation, and the client says, I buy it. That's not the way that it works. The way that it works now is there is heavy strategic, heavy creative, certainly the most important part of it, but it is based, or they are based, on data and insights and on technology, which aids the way that we do things. So neither technology or data are destroyers of creativity or strategic thinking. They are enhancers of it. So I think we become far more effective and far more efficient in today. So it's a new golden age, but it's a very different one. For example, we sell time currently. And if the time to make a commercial can be compressed, which it can do, literally 4 months, we're doing one thing at the moment, from 4 months to 4 weeks, and from $2.5 million of cost to 500,000, right? So what do? Do you charge on the basis of time or output, value added, right?
True.
So we have to change our model. So the problem about AI is not that it degrades our business, it creates new opportunities, far more opportunities than before. The problem is we have to develop our model and change our model and wean away from large numbers of people and even larger amounts of time to smaller numbers of people who are more efficient, effective, and use technology and data to achieve a better result. So in that world of highly personalized content where we're having 600 million messages, whatever it is, a day that we're bombarded with, you have to make them more effective by using this.
True. I think
and machine brains too.
It's a combination of both the sides.
I mean, the big tricky thing is, will machines become more powerful than people? I mean, I just came across the thing, the CEO of one of our clients, who's in the supply chain business, was an ex-boxer, and he went to China and he showed me a film of one of Xiaomi's factories. So their $70,000 car that looks like a Porsche. I mean, it's a beautiful new modern car, which has done extremely well in terms of pre-orders and orders, and mobile phones. So he went to their factory, and then he went to a boxing robot factory, right? He's an ex-boxer, and he had a boxing match with a robot boxer. Now, if you just think that robot factory apparently in China is monitored or controlled or certainly looked at with great scrutiny by the Chinese government, and you can understand why, because you think about robot boxers, what they are, and what you could make a robot boxer. the era of Dan Dare, and when I was young we had a comic called The Eagle.
Yeah.
The Mekons, Dan Dare and the Mekons, and all the battles took place with drones and robots. And here we are, 80 years later, with drones and with robots. So, it is what the most interesting thing is, when does machine intelligence become more powerful than
The
human?
possibilities
If so.
are endless, actually.
Yes.
You're right.
And frightening.
And frightening.
Some of them.
Yeah,
Some.
of course, if you can think of it. Since coming back to the topic, since we were talking about how AI also accelerates creativity and everything, AI now has radically accelerated content creation, right? But do you think this is sort of a race to the bottom quality? Or on the other hand?
I think that's the rose-tinted spectacles. They used to say that about data. Data destroys, sort of intuition, creativity. That's bullshit. It enhances it. I mean, it can do, but it is certainly true that in the early days of AI, that's 3 months ago, or 4 months ago, because it's moving at light speed. Right. Our Puma commercial drew a lot of criticism, saying the people that created it should be shot, basically, because it was crude.
Yeah.
But now the technology is improving at light speed, and here we are, 3 or 4 months. If you looked at the work that we've done with the Proctor, if you look at the work we're doing with SC Johnson, if you look at the work that we're doing with others, with the Shell commercial that we just did recently with GM, what we will be doing with General Mills International. I mean, these are with Amazon. I mean, the work, the video that you can produce through a prompt on Runway or on Luma or in the Chinese equivalent Minimax,
right,
is improving in leaps and bounds with every successive version that's produced. With VO3, VO4 for Google will be even better. VO3 was a remarkable improvement on previous models. So I think it's easy to criticize the early days. I mean, there was an ad I was watching. Well, it wasn't an ad. There was a little documentary clip about the first radio broadcast. And,
okay.
Is there anybody out there listening to this? So it was extreme, but that was obviously over a longer period of time.
Yeah.
This is moving, as I said, at light speed. So it's easy to criticize, but I think it's a very Luddite way to think about things.
Right. We also see Google and Meta embedding AI into their ecosystems now. They are totally organizationally and with their output as well dependent on how AI presents their information. But do you think somewhere this will shrink the scope of traditional media, because
it is.
Then the scope of agencies comes down?
Yeah, and the scope of agencies, you mean?
Yeah.
Well, first of all, on traditional media, it is reducing its scope, because that's now 30% of the market. When we started S4 6 years ago, it was 50%.
Right.
By 2030, I think digital will be 80% of the market.
Yeah.
Google is 250 billion of revenues out of $1 trillion. Meta's 150, Amazon's 60, TikTok's 40. You add those four up, that's 500 out of the $1 trillion, and it's 500 out of 700 billion digital. So digital dominates. If you didn't know that, it does. And
of course.
I got criticized for saying CMO's job has got easier as a result. I think it has, because there are fewer options. You throw in Alibaba and Tencent, and that Bob's your uncle. I mean, Microsoft, they're at 19 billion, Apple at 11, Snap at 5.5, Twitter at used to be 5, now 2.5 under X, Pinterest 4. So I mean, they are much smaller, and there are some smaller ones, but the big six dominate. And with the investment needed to develop AI, the $500 billion a year they're spending on CapEx, the Mag 7 or the MAGA 7 as we now call it, under Trump 2.0, what it means is those companies are going to become even more important. So those platforms. Now, the interesting thing to relate to your question about what's the relationship with agencies is when Mark Zuckerberg says, give me your credit card, and I'll give you 4,000 different creative execution, he's 15% of the market.
Yeah.
Or He's 150 out of 700 billion, let's call it 20% of the digital market.
Right.
And growing the fastest of all of them. So let's say he gets up to 25% or 30%. There's still 70% or 2/3 that he doesn't control.
Right.
And he's likely not to end up in control of that. And that means that clients will have options, and clients will say to us, does the Google algorithm or the Meta algorithm work? Is it right? And they'll ask us to validate it. What it means for us, I used to call Google a frenemy or Meta a frenemy. They're probably now more than friend than enemy, frenemy or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Or friend to the power of two. Enemy.
To the power of two. Wow.
Right. I mean, and that means we have to get closer to the platforms and work much more closely with the platforms to implement. Because what people don't fail to remember is that 60 to 70% of Alphabet, Meta, and Amazon's revenues, and Alibaba and Tencent, I think, and ByteDance, come from small and medium-sized enterprises.
Right.
The enterprise side hasn't been attacked as yet, but Advantage Plus and PMax, which are the media planning and buying platforms at Meta and at Google, they will have the facility to be able to integrate in an end-to-end way. The prompt will be, give me a campaign,
right,
and then it will say, now plan and buy that campaign for me. What we have to show, we have to validate with clients that that works for them.
Well said. Coming to the topic of, I think you've once mentioned about the horizontality of information, right? Mm-hmm. If you can tell me, what do you mean by that in depth? And second of all, a further question to that is that, how do you think that this will impact will it flatten hierarchies within organizations, and to what extent?
Yeah, well, I think they will flatten it hugely, and I think it's, if you said to me, write a book about your experiences in the advertising business over the last 60 or 70 years, whatever it is, 50, 60 years, I would say the thing that bedevils client organizations and agency organizations, both of them, is politics.
Yeah.
And that people tended to build silos. The ability of human beings to sabotage corporate purpose. You go away on these strategy meetings, you agree where you're going to go, and then individual likes and dislikes, politics with a small p, invades it. The ability of people to do that. I mean, they devoted all their effort to the building of the enterprise, to frustrating the enterprise, be a totally different world. So aligning people around corporate objectives is hugely important and hugely difficult to do and to execute. With AI, I mean, the classic example is Jensen Huang. He has 51 direct reports.
Right.
We'll be with the chairman of BCG at the Economic Times conference this weekend. And I'm sure if you asked his consultants, what's the ideal management span? How many people should have reporting? They say 12 or 13. Jensen has 51. How does he do it? I guess he doesn't apparently do many one-to-one meetings. He sets people KPIs, 4 or 5, and then monitors their progress. But knowledge inside NVIDIA is spread across the organization. What people can create silos and control by controlling information.
Right.
In an era of AI, that's depending on your level and access.
Yeah.
You get access to far more than you instantaneously that you never got before. And I think that will speed cooperation. The other thing is, the further down you go inside an organization, in my experience, the more people want to cooperate. If somebody has to do the work on Friday evening at 5 o'clock when a client rings up and says, I want something by Monday morning 8 a.m. for a presentation. If you have the ability to locate somebody in your own organization who's solved the same problem or has some inputs in it, that can help enormously. So I think the propensity to share increases the deeper you go and decreases the further up you go, because the way that you control a silo is by controlling information. And I think that's going to go, and that will flatten the organization. So I think that's hugely important, hugely important. Okay. More important actually than visualization, copywriting, personalization, scale, impact on media planning, buying, or general efficiency. I think it's super, super important.
I think learning to let go of work and still being in touch with everybody at the organization gets more easier.
Yeah, I'm not sold on that. I was sold on it maybe just after COVID, or when we went through COVID. I'm not sold on it now. I think organizations have become, I mean, I'll get shot for saying this, but I think organizations have become quite lazy and unproductive as a result. I cannot believe that government departments are effective with people spending 2, 3, 4 days out of the office and out of contact with one another. I mean, there may be certain jobs where, where you save, not just you save on commuting time, but the value of collaboration, the value of talking to one another and exploring concepts and ideas is huge.
Of course.
And I don't think it can be reproduced. I mean, this goes against, I do a lot of work with the Harvard Business School, and it goes against most of the academic research I've seen come out of that venerable institution, or maybe they suffer from the World Economic Forum. What they say is right is wrong, or accurate is inaccurate. But my sense is that in the early days of COVID, we're a digital native organization, and we benefited, terrible thing to say, but we benefited from COVID as people explored things in more remote work from home, work from anywhere locations. But I think it becomes over time abused, and I think people lose a lot from the interaction. Most of the academic research, and I haven't seen some academic research in this area for some time, but most of the academic research says, certainly HBS research does, that if you can organize get-togethers every week or month or quarter or whatever, and if you social interaction, make sure people exchange their email addresses, go in taxis to meetings because they tend to exchange contact details more. If that might have been true, and that may be true, but I think generally organizations are losing a lot by the lack of attendance.
Makes sense. I kind of agree with you. It's true. Also, moving on to what's happening all around the world in the advertising sector, consolidation is the word to go these days. What do you think? Is consolidating the only way to scale, or can independent shops still survive?
No, I think it's going to polarize. I think it's going to be very much like the investment banking industry. One end you have Goldman, you have Morgan Stanley, JP Morgan, the other have Evercore, Lazards, Rothschilds, etc. So you have the middle ground will be difficult, but you have the specialists and things. With our industry, digital is more about brain power than it is about volume. So I think it's interesting. Omnicom and IBG both say one of the chief reasons, apart from American, 57% of the business being in the US, the combination, they say they'll get scale, even more scale on media. I think to some extent that's true. I don't buy that. I think media planning and buying is going to go towards more transparency, meaning that people will have an open book, like we do, exception of Brazil, where the convention is to have discounts which you can pass back to the clients or not. I think what's going to happen in the media is, I think in this day and age, I find it ridiculous that people don't know the price that they pay for a TV spot in Japan. I'm still told that clients don't know that, and I find that extraordinary. In a blockchain AI world, we should be able at least to get that. They should know. So transparency, I think, will be up. So paying a fee, or paying a commission, or paying whatever way, because we have to sort it out in relation to outputs, as we were talking about before. I think it's critically important. So we'll see.
Coming specifically to India, since you mentioned about transparency, we saw a lot of ad agencies being raided down due to the cartilization of pricing and everything going around. What do you think?
You're saying it as though it was a fact that there was cartilization.
I say it as to what was going around and what I heard.
You mean the gossip?
Not the gossip.
No, I was speaking to somebody this afternoon, actually, who I know very well here, a media owner. And he said there was cartilization. He agrees with you.
Okay, then I'm speaking facts.
It was fixed.
So what do you think is the underlying reason that we are going ahead in this kind of a direction? And is this the only way forward to kind of come out with the truth?
Going which way, do you mean?
Towards the way where the dynamics are driving this sort of a trend.
Well, I think people are always worried about concentration.
Yeah.
When I was at WPP, I mean, we certainly at one stage had half the market here in terms of media planning and buying. I don't know why the sort of things you're referring to, I don't know whether they were true or not.
Yeah.
All joking aside, but I don't know why, if they were, it went that way. What the underlying reason was for that. Maybe it became too cozy. But fortunately or unfortunately, that is the way that the industry is going. I mean, those 6 platforms I mentioned, I believe will have even bigger share.
Yeah.
They have has 50% of the market. I think it would be even greater concentration because of the capital needs of AI. Yeah. Now, you might say, well, there were 2 things in relation to the regulator. One is it's very difficult for the regulator to keep up with these companies. And the second, even if they could, would it be a good idea to have a larger number of smaller tech companies? I don't think it would, because I think for defensive purposes and even offensive purposes in terms of war and conflict, I think it's really important to have a strong tech sector. Europe's weakness is it doesn't have, we did have a forerunner for the web, Minitel in France, but it didn't get anywhere. So for whatever reason, either because the Americans have a better capitalist system than we do, corporate finance or financing system we do, whatever the reason, banking system, whatever the reasons, regulatory system, whatever the reasons are, they do and we don't. And I think that's a big, big issue. So having strong tech companies is the antithesis of what we're talking about, but it's really important from a defensive point of view. We see that in Ukraine, remember, with Musk and his satellites, Starlink. We've seen it in the Middle East,
right.
Drone wars. We've seen it in Ukraine, drone wars. So big tech is here to stay, in my view, and it will get bigger. These are nation states.
True.
If India is 5 trillion of GDP, I could argue that a $4 trillion dollar company, like an Nvidia, like a Microsoft, is equivalent. If you equate market cap to GDP, a state is.
We know where it's going.
It's bigger than the UK.
True, of course. Well said. Moving ahead to the part where I asked if what way we are going, is it helping? Like, do you think doing investigations in the way that they are happening will make the things more transparent, or it'll push the industry towards a more opaque territory?
Well, I think the technology will sort the agencies out.
Okay.
Because the system will become so transparent. I mean, blockchain in theory. I remember when we started S4, there was a guy down in Florida who was putting in a blockchain system between publishers and between clients going direct. So eventually that's going to happen. I mean, we talked about Advantage Plus and PMax at Meta and at Google. Those devices, if it does produce an end-to-end model where you literally can get content created and planned and bought, that's going to create a much more transparent system, and will deal with the inconsistencies or the friction that you're talking about here in relation to IPL pricing or whatever the charge is. So the system will be much more open and much clearer.
Great.
And that feeds back to the role of independence vis-a-vis large holding companies, because the holding companies depend to some extent. Why is Publicis doing so well? Well, they do have a good leadership, they do have a good data and digital story, but they also have a very strong media operation, and it may be there are sticky fingers there.
True. Makes sense. S4 Capital itself is in talks with the MSQ Partners for merger, right? What gaps do you think this will fill if this goes through?
Sorry, which one?
Have I said it wrong?
Sorry? Which one?
The MSQ Partners
Oh,
one.
no. So let's be quite clear about that.
Okay.
So the major shareholder of MSQ, One Equity Partners,
Okay.
made an approach.
Okay.
Okay. So we didn't reach out at all. So that's number one.
Okay.
Having made that approach, it was quite clear that the One Equity Partners didn't fully discuss. They own 70% of the business. 30% is owned by the management. So there was because the approach leaked, because we're a listed company.
Right.
We had to make a reactive announcement to the stock exchange. That's how it got out. Management at MSQ, I mean, I could have put it politely, were not aligned. Were not properly informed.
Oops.
That's the reason that happened.
Okay.
So, but that was, we made no initiative. I mean, we didn't really know much of anything about MSQ. So that was, quotes unquote, accidental. No, I think, look, as far as we're concerned, we have a very strong content offer.
Yeah.
A very strong data and digital media offer, which we now have as marketing service. And then we have a transformation offer around technology services. That's what we need. There are some things I'd like to do geographically. I mean, I generally like to increase the scale of the operation because we're at about $1 billion of gross revenue. I'd like to see that more. We do about 5 billion billings. So it's relatively small, Group M is still doing 60 billion despite their losses of accounts recently. So I think Publicis does 55. So then Omnicom I think will do about 55, 60.
Almost similar to Publicis, is it?
Yes,
right,
similar to the size. So it'd be nice to have more scale. On the other hand, I was talking to one of our people just yesterday about this. I'm not sure that scale is going to be as important. In a funny way, I know Philippe at IPG said one of the reasons he wanted to do the Omnicom thing was for scale. I'm not sure that the horse has left the barn on that, and that it's brain power that's going to be more important. We'll see how it pans out. Certainly in the traditional world, scale is important. That's why I thought I was a bit surprised that the FTSE said yes, because in the traditional part of the business, in America, really 3 buyers are going to 2, or 4 are going to 3.
Right.
So it's getting quite tight. If you look at the industry as being traditional plus digital, it's much looser.
Yeah.
So we'll see how it pans out. But I have a funny feeling that brain power is going to get more important.
Of course.
That's right. It all links together. Work from home, brain power, better to have the brains together.
Right.
More working cohesively. Volume becomes less important, maybe. We'll see how it pans out.
Amazing. Inching towards the end of our discussion, one of my questions is, you yourself said how, jobs for CMOs is getting easier. But on the other hand, they also have the pressure to do something with AI, even if they don't excel in that matter. What is your suggestion to the upcoming CMOs? How do they not fall into the gimmick and make something meaningful?
Get on with it. Do it. Because those macroeconomic pressures mentioned, plus tariffs, mean, and that in this new world or different world where growth is going to be more difficult to come by and you have to be efficient, AI is going to be of paramount importance. And I think 26 is not going to be an easy year. And I think in those circumstances, the economic pressures plus the geopolitics plus the tariffs are going to push people to be more revolutionary. The other thing is, how can I say this without offending people? There are CMOs that are concerned about themselves, and there are CMOs that are concerned about their companies.
Right.
Now take the guy we work with at General Motors, Norm de Greve. He is what I would call an analytical CMO. He's not somebody who necessarily wants to be interviewed by you or your competitors, but is really interested in how he gets the best analytical model in marketing for GM when he knows that Chinese EVs and AVs are going to try and eat GM's lunch.
Yeah.
And he knows that at some point in time, Mary Barra is going to say, look, you're going to have to reduce your costs for us to be competitive. With a BYD God's Eye AV at $10,000 or EV at $25,000 when Musk says he's introducing his new car at $35,000 pre-tariffs, but that's the pricing. So the Chinese have this advantage for whatever reason, subsidy, government intervention, whatever it happens to be.
True.
The fact is, they can do it.
Yeah.
And what are you going to do and compete? Or if you're a financial services company and you're up against Nubank, who we work for in Brazil, you can provide a much more agile, cheaper, technologically sophisticated thing to a branch bank. What do? How do you manage yourself?
Get on with it. The key word is.
Yes, I think we said it was wow. The reaction to AI was wow 2 years ago. Then now, and then how.
Yeah.
And now it's now. I think now is, with GM, they've revolutionized their model. They've got significant benefits as a result in terms of more effective media investment and more effective creative cost.
Yeah.
The number of clients, any client, listen to this, if you're spending more than 10% of your media cost on create, you should be looking at it. When we pitch AI, we say you will save at least 30% from your costs. Finish on the example. We're running a test against a normally produced $2.5 million going to be shot in Eastern Europe, take 4 months, against an agentic commercial. We're just using agentic assets, which will take about 4 weeks and cost $500,000. So we'll see when we'll compare the result, right? And see. And if you compare our Puma commercial 6 months ago with our latest one for Shell, it's light years better in terms of development, but it's improving in real time.
Of course.
This is what I think people running agencies don't understand, and clients don't understand. This improvement is huge. And we did a test with clients just recently, and we said one of our clients takes 200 days on average to implement a campaign. We said, we'll give you a campaign within 50, give us a brief, we'll give you one in 15 days. We did it in 12 days. And we've got the results, and the results are extremely good. And it's not just about sort of lower funnel activation advertising. This is about, we can tell a story using agentic commercials. There are big ethical issues, cultural issues, but this is the way of the world. I think this is where it's going to go.
Great. Last question to you.
Yeah.
I've asked too many questions to you already. Last question to you. If there was one AI-driven shift that was supposed to be transforming the advertising industry and you had to bet on it, what would it be and why?
The democratization of knowledge.
Okay.
I think that changes the game. It makes everybody in the company as aware of what's going on as anybody else. The problem with organizations is that awareness or understanding or knowledge is isolated.
Yeah.
And what AI does, it brings potentially, if it's deployed, it makes everything available. It reminds me when I was running WPP, I went to Mexico. Ogilvy had as a client Mexico Technology, which I think at that time had 30,000 students in Mexico. But at that time it was a long time ago. Anyway, I remember the head of the institute, the Mextech, saying to me that the amazing thing about the web was that there were these villages in Mexico that didn't have a library, and that you installed the web and instantly everybody had access to not all the human knowledge, but all the human knowledge that was on the web. If you think about AI and the access that it gives everybody inside an organization, whereas up until then, if they don't inquire, if they don't prompt, they don't get. But that's on the assumption that they're inquisitive and prompt. It is 5 o'clock this evening, it's Friday, a client has just rung me up and said they want to know about this, that and the other. Is there anybody out there who knows the answer to this? Incredible.
Yeah.
Right?
True.
And the more information that is disseminated, the more accurate it gets. So I think that is the biggest. It's wonderful what it can do on visualization, copyright. It's wonderful what it can do with personalization at scale. It's wonderful what it can do with the media planning and buying algorithms on general efficiency, on reducing cost of an outside broadcast by 80%. But the best thing is it makes knowledge available to everybody. Unbelievable.
Sure. I think we are at the end of our conversation.
Thank you very much.
This was amazing. I loved
Good.
having the
Very
conversation
good.
with you.
Good. Thank you very much. Good to see you.
Same here,
Thank
sir.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.